Hello, I'm doing a book review, and the book I want to review is The Lair of the White Worm by Bram Stoker. Now, this book also goes by the title The Guardian of Evil. Now, Bram Stoker is, of course, the author of the novel Dracula, which is one of the most famous horror novels ever written, and is probably Bram Stoker's most famous book. Now, The Lair of the White Worm was originally published in 1911, actually 1 year before Bram Stoker's death. Now, the book was actually republished in 1925, however, it was heavily re-edited and actually condensed, because the original version of this book, I think, had like 40-something chapters, but this edition of the book has been condensed to like 28 chapters, and apparently when they re-edited the book, they removed like 100 pages from it. I'm not really sure what the reason for that was, but yeah, this edition of the book I have is the 1925 abridged edition, so I don't know if the original edition of the book is available at all, but this is the abridged edition of it. Now, as I said, Dracula is probably Bram Stoker's most famous book, and unfortunately, I feel like because of the fame and popularity of Dracula, it kind of overshadowed a lot of his other books, including this book, because this book has definitely seemed to fallen into obscurity. However, there was a film adaptation of this book in the 80s directed by Kent Russell. However, the film adaptation was set in present time, while this book is actually set in the year 1860. Now, the plot of The Lair of the White Worm is it's set in the year 1860, and it follows a man named Adam Salton, who is a man from Australia who travels to England to meet his great-uncle, Richard, who sent him a letter, and they're trying to establish a relationship with each other because they're both the last surviving members of their family. But what happens is, when Adam comes to England, he hears about some of the local legends of this particular area in England that he's in, and basically the plot line of the book is he finds himself the center of strange and inexplainable occurrences, most of these involving a woman named Lady Arabella March, who is not what she appears to be. Now, Lady Arabella is this very mysterious woman who you find out in the book might not even be human, and it turns out that she worships this giant serpent called the White Worm, which lives in this pit at this place called Diana's Grove, where she actually lives. And in the book, Adam befriends his uncle's friend, Sir Nathaniel, who's almost like this book's version of Abraham Van Helsing. Like, he's almost like a Van Helsing type character, and he knows exactly what Lady Arabella is, and he wants to destroy her. And in the book, Adam falls in love with this young woman named Mimi, who Lady Arabella is trying to destroy, and that's the basic plot line of The Lair of the White Worm. There's a lot more to the story than just that, but that's the very basic plot line of the book. Now, I thought The Lair of the White Worm was a pretty interesting book. Now, I can't say the book was necessarily great, but it was definitely an interesting read, and I would definitely recommend, if you can find a copy of this book, definitely give it a read at least once and make your own opinion of it. But I thought it was an interesting book. I definitely think I like Dracula a little bit more, but it's still definitely worth a read. Now, I don't know how well received this book was at the time it was published, but now if you look up reviews on this book on the internet, I personally have come across more negative reviews for this book than positive. Like, a lot of people really seem to hate this book, and some of the criticisms I can actually understand, because there's this one particular character in the book who's an African servant, and the way the book describes this character, I'm not gonna lie, is kinda racist. Like, the book describes this one particular character as being such a vile human being, but also really calling attention to the fact that he's a slave from Africa, and the way the book describes this one particular character, it does definitely come off as being at least borderline racist. But if you can look past that one aspect of the book, it's definitely not a bad horror story, and it's definitely worth a read at least once. And maybe I'm reading a little too deep into it with some of the racist undertones with that one particular character, but I'm not the only one who noticed that, though. Like, if you look up some reviews of this book online, other people have pointed that out as well with that one particular character, but if you can look past some of the politically incorrectness in the book, it's definitely not a bad horror story, though, and who knows, you might love the book. I've come across some rather positive reviews on the book, so it's definitely not a bad book, but definitely not a great book either, but it's definitely worth a read at least once. But yeah, that's my review on The Lair of the White Worm by Bram Stoker, and bye.